Thank you, Les Cahirlock, and Minister, you're very welcome into the chamber. I'm not going to talk about vaccinations. I'm just going to talk about the piece of legislation that is before us here today. This legislation allows for the use of outdoor seating for venues with liquor licences. It was brought in early July this year to facilitate the outdoor dining and drinking only recommendation from NEFIT. The legislation is set to lapse at the end of this month, November, and the Government is seeking its extension. This legislation was instrumental in allowing vintners and publicans, as well as restaurant owners, the ability to make a living when indoor dining was put on hold. While outdoor dining may not be the most attractive prospect at this time of year, spring will roll soon enough and there will be a gradual return to it as we enter the summer. I wonder if people can remember the circumstances of this law. The messaging in the lead-up to the reopening at the time was that a full return to hospitality was going to occur. This was thrown into doubt about a week before the due date, and after a period of uncertainty where no one knew what was going on, NEFIT ruled that outdoor only was the way to go, and this legislation was typed overnight to try and facilitate that. It seems like a long time ago, but in reality it was all quite recent. Many issues with the Government's communication around the area were raised in the lower house at the time, that there needs to be clarity in order that people understand why decisions are made and what is happening, and that last-minute changes of heart do not inspire confidence. Unfortunately, we're still in a situation where the advice is pertinent, and I fear the ghost of a meaningful Christmas pass may spook policymakers in the opposition direction to last year, lest 2 January spike be one too many. But this legislation is perhaps the least offensive of those brought in on the back of COVID. Whereas many laws brought through this House over the past 2 years have been restrictive in nature, confining people in a location or constraining them in their activity, this sticks out as legislation which actually provided certainty as to the legality of operating on outdoor premises. Again, we might remember that the Government proposed that this was the thing to do, drinking outdoors, for months, without checking and making sure that it had the legislation in place. But here it is now, and in order to enable pub and restaurant owners who wish to operate an outdoor premises to do so, I am happy to support the legislation. One thing I would like to see, Minister, are the stats on the law so far. Do we have figures from An Garda Síochána with regard to the policing of this legislation, i.e. prosecutions under Section 3 or closure orders under Section 4? We cannot fall into the habit of passing laws and forgetting about them. Constant assessment to form revision must be present. To be quite honest, Minister, I would support this particular piece of legislation for much longer. I think having an outdoor space available for publicans and restaurateurs is something that we should look at installing long term, and we shouldn't take away that space from them once this COVID is over. Thank you.